Welcome and thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Wolfgang Oestreich and I'm a member of ForeFlight's European Pilot Support Team. In this webinar, I talk about ForeFlight Mobile for VFR flying in Europe. I start talking about the tools available for VFR flight planning, followed by in-flight tools available for VFR pilots. Finally, I'll show you the post-flight tools. The webinar will be recorded and can be viewed later at foreflight.com/webinars. Here you can also register for the upcoming webinar in April covering avionics connectivity with ForeFlight. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. You can ask questions via the GoToWebinar message panel on the right. Please click the section, which looks like a question mark, to expand that section and put in your question. We will respond as many of those questions as we can directly during the presentation and will also respond to others in the Q&A portion. If your question isn't answered during the session, please send an email to team@foreflight.com. If you have audio problems during this webinar, we recommend joining from a computer because we found mobile devices tend to have more problems with the GoToWebinar platform. Now let's get started. When planning a VFR flight, you need to consider many things, such as airspaces, areas with restrictions, weather conditions, and much more. ForeFlight Mobile supports you in the careful preparation and execution of your visual flight. Basically, there are many ways to plan a VFR flight. In this webinar, I would like to demonstrate an example of planning a visual flight from Rochester in the UK to Merville in France. Besides the possibility to select the departure airfield by touching it on the map, the name can also be entered in the search line at the top of the screen. And the airfield can be selected from the search results. After selecting the departure airfield, the sidebar menu opens. Here you can not only read frequencies and opening times, but you can get also further information such as an extract from the AAP, provided that many national authority makes this data available free of charge. Tap on AIP and the corresponding section will be displayed. You can swipe between the slides using the 3-finger gesture and swiping on the screen from the left to the right. Further down the page, you will find more information, such as availability of customs and border authorities. Information about the operator of the airfield or companies located there can be found in the header section. To view this information, tap on the FBO's button. For Rochester Airport, its phone number and current fuel prices for AFCAS and Jet A1 are displayed. These prices are collected by ForeFlight. By tapping on details, further information becomes accessible. If you want to know what other pilots have to say about the airfield, you can read it in the comments section. And you can also enter your own comments or updated fuel prices here. But you have more options here. You can reach the website of the airport operator directly from the ForeFlight's mobile app by tapping on the corresponding field. The web page opens in the Safari browser, and you can navigate the website as usual. Tapping ForeFlight in the upper left corner will return you to the ForeFlight mobile app. Tapping on the icons allow you to call the airport directly on your iPhone, send addresses to the Apple or Google Maps application for road navigation, or send an email to the airport. These emails could be used for PPR requests or sending them required documents like the UK General Aviation Report. For returning to the previous screen, tap on the icon in the top left corner. The tab structure allows you to access more information about the airfield, like the current and forecasted weather data. The substructure shows some meter information. In case the airport doesn't provide meter, you can find the meter information of nearby airports providing the data. The same applies to the terminal area forecast data. The color-coded raw data provide you with a quick overview of the weather trend. The colors are green for VFR conditions, blue for marginal VFR, red for IFR, and magenta for low IFR weather conditions. The decoded data with their time of validity can be seen when scrolling down in the list. The daily weather forecast provides you with a quick overview of the weather forecast for the next 10 days, with times for sunrise, sunset, maximum and minimum temperature, probability of rain, and short notes about the general weather on that day. When tapping on a day, you can get a detailed hourly weather forecast for that day. Also here you can find the color codes for the classifications of the weather conditions. At 1300 Zulu on that day, marginal VFR weather was forecasted. The detail view on top of the window shows that the forecasted ceiling of 2,900 feet is a reason for that classification. The weather classifications are following the US NOAA flight category classification. NOAA is a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Tap on Close in the top left to return to the previous screen. The last, tap right, shows the forecasted wind and temperature data for the airport in different altitudes. For all weather data, you can see the time of the last update. The Runway tab contains the runway information like dimensions, surface, and wind information if available. With a tap on a specific runway, you can get more detailed overview about the runway specific, like available glide scope indicators, slope, heading, displayed thresholds, or runway lighting. After going back into the info screen, tap Procedures to get all available charts and data for that airport. The maps displayed depend on your subscription and optionally purchased add-ons. An optional add-on is a Jeppesen procedure chart coverage. This add-on can be purchased with a ForeFlight subscription or installed from an existing Jeppesen account. All subscription plans contain the freely available government charts published via Eurocontrol, and the airport diagrams and airport information provided by ForeFlight. These airport information contain the textual airport information provided by Jeppesen. This will allow you to familiarize yourself with the processes and specifics of the airfield. For example, the behaviors prescribed in relation to noise prevention or restrictions of use. While customers with a Pro Plus or higher plan can also use the airfield charts georeferenced, all have access to this information in the full screen display. Simply tap on the entry for showing the chart in the Charts tab. The instrument line on the bottom of the screen keeps you updated with the relevant flight data. To hide this line, tap on the chart. Tap on Map to return to the Maps view. The NOTAM tab contains NOTAMs for the airport and the flight information region. The NOTAMs are sorted in chronological order. Besides airport and obstacle NOTAMs, you can access the NOTAMs valid for the flight information region. For example, scheduled danger area activation times. After checking all relevant data for the airport, it can be added to the route. And the airport is marked on the map and added to the route. You can zoom in for seeing the airport details and facilities. Extended center lines show the direction and addition of runways. When tapping on the runway name, the sidebar menu shows the detailed information and allows to select the runway for planning. Subsequently, the direction of departure is marked by small arrows on the map. Distances can be measured on the map view at any time by holding down two fingers on the map until the ruler appears. Hold both fingers on the map and slide them across the map to reposition the ruler to take measurements between other locations. The ruler is also handy for quickly visualizing direct routes between two points. When measuring distances less than 3 nautical miles, the distance will also be displayed in feet, helpful for measuring the available runway length. When using the ruler in flight, the current ground speed will be used to show the time of travel for the distance measured. When not in flight, the true airspeed from your current route or default aircraft will be used instead. Fuel burn estimates are also shown using the fuel burn provided for the current route or from the default aircraft. All time and fuel estimates are based on no wind conditions. Initial course bearings are also shown from each side of the ruler. The ruler not only allows you to measure distances, time, or required fuel, but also display profile view of the selected section. The profile view requires a Pro Plus subscription plan or higher. Tapping on an airspace in the profile view is highlighting that airspace on the map and provide you with detailed information about that airspace. The ruler will remain on the map after you remove your fingers. To remove that ruler, tap on the map. For selecting the destination airport, you can use the search line as well. Or zoom in to the map and tap on the destination airport. For this webinar, I select Merville in France as the destination. The sidebar menu opens automatically when selecting the airport. After scrolling down, we can check if customs is available on that airport. The destination airport can be added to the route by tapping on the Add to Route icon, which results in the display of a magenta line between start and destination aerodromes. Tapping on that line opens the sidebar menu with information about distance and magnetic course between both points. Tapping on Close or anywhere on the map closes the sidebar menu. Two fingers can be used to zoom into the map. tap and hold short to move the route line on a waypoint you want to include to the route. The sidebar menu shows the selected position on top of the list and all available airports, nav aids, or IFR and VFR waypoints sorted in increasing distance. Even if you are planning a VFR flight, it is best practice to use known IFR waypoints or nav aids, as these are also known to ATC later in flight, and this facilitates acceptance of the flight plans. VFR reporting points shown on the chart can also be included in the route planning in this way. When selected, these waypoints are shown as VP and a number in the list. You can select one of these waypoints and tap on Details, then you can see the name of the waypoint. Clicking on the route icon zooms the maps to the entire planned route. Airspaces above a certain altitude can be hidden in the map settings. If this setting is selected, a corresponding banner appears at the bottom right of the screen. Clicking on the banner opens the map settings and allows to adjust this altitude for the planned flight and to activate automatic airspace highlighting. Automatic airspace highlighting dims airspaces that are not affected by the current route planning, whereas all airspaces through which the route passes remain highlighted. Just like the hidden airspaces above a specific altitude, hidden or dimmed airspaces will automatically reappear during flight as the actual altitude or direction of flight approaches these airspaces. Open the flight plan editor and tap on the en route altitude. Based on the planned departure time, aircraft and routing, the altitude, winds and resulting estimated flight times and fuel consumption are displayed. Tap on an altitude to select that altitude for the flight. If, as in this example, 5,500 feet altitude is selected, a class airspaces starting at that altitude immediately appear highlighted. Changing the altitude back to 3,500 feet, these airspaces are displayed dimmed again. ForeFlight Mobile also allows you to create your own waypoints that can be used for your route planning. In the example, the route has to go via Takeoff. If you drag the route line to this location, the coordinates are displayed at the top of the list in the sidebar menu. You can add the waypoint using both coordinates or save the waypoint and give it a name of your choice. Once you have saved the waypoint, you can select it from the list of available waypoints. Takeoff now also appears in the flight plan editor with its name. After switching over to the dynamic navlog, the user-defined waypoints appears here as well. And after switching, the dynamic navlog allows you to select waypoint for a direct to, or when tapping the arrow between the waypoints, allows activating the lag between the waypoints. The difference between the two methods is that the previous route remains visible when activating the lag, whereas this part is removed from the route when selecting Direct to Waypoint. The profile view, which requires Pro Plus subscription or higher, shows a cross-section with your planned altitude, including climb and descent, relative to the controlled airspace and restricted areas within 1 nautical mile of your planned route, as well as terrain and obstacle within a selectable width corridor along your planned route of flight. The default is 2 nautical mile wide, 1 nautical mile on either side. Obstacle and terrain data must be downloaded to use Profile View. In flight, the Profile View automatically switches to show airspace, obstacles, and terrain 50 nautical mile ahead of your current location. Tapping on an airspace in the Profile View marks the airspace in the map view and provides you with the airspace details. ForeFlight's mobile app, European regional coverage, provides a graphical representation of active NOTAMs for all users. Tapping on an active area opens a sidebar menu with the NOTAM details. In this example, both active areas have an upper limit far below our planned route. Each entry can be selected individually to read the complete NOTAM. Especially in areas with a complex structure and with many restriction areas, the graphical NOTAMs allow a quick overview. Restricted areas are shown in yellow 2 hours before the time of activation and in red from the time of activation onwards. Other NOTAMs, such as deactivation of airspaces or the establishment of obstacles, are shown in gray. If you hold your finger down briefly, all airspaces at that position are displayed in the sidebar menu, even if they have been hidden. Here you will also find the frequencies of the flight information services. Selecting an airspace shows the details like upper and lower limit or the communication details. However, the flight information service frequencies are also displayed on the boundaries of the flight information region. The view of the entire route can be zoomed in at any time by clicking on the route symbol. The Layer Selector allows additional layers of information to be added. In addition to the graphical NOTAMs I have already talked about, weather information can be displayed. For example, the current radar image. Precipitation areas are shown according to their intensity and type of precipitation. The precipitation areas to the north and the east of a planned route are clearly visible. Another weather that can be displayed in real time is an enhanced satellite picture. The enhanced satellite picture shows, depending on the time of day, visible or infrared derived grayscale satellite images with color infrared highlights for high altitude cloud tops. The data measured by the satellite are calibrated and colorized according to the temperature and the cloud tops. If you want to learn more about aviation weather in ForeFlight, please watch the video on our website. For customers with a Pro Plus plan or higher, the ForeFlight mobile app provides you with a cloud coverage map overlay. As for many weather layers, you can select your en route altitude on the right side and use the time slider on the bottom of the screen for checking the forecasted cloud coverage at that altitude for the next 24 hours. Included in Performance Plus and Business Performance subscription plans are the wind and temperature and the wind and speeds map overlay. Wind speeds displays the forecast global wind speeds in knots up to 24 hours in the future, as colors at a selectable altitude, with wind direction and speed represented by a smoothly flowing particle animations. The layer features as a dynamic legend at the bottom of the Maps page shows color range corresponding to the wind speed. Please watch the Flight Weather webinar to learn more about the available weather overlays. With the Flight Plan Editor, you can define the route, the aircraft used and its power setting, the planned flight altitude or the planned departure time. When the iPad is connected to a compatible Everdyn, Dynon or Garmin avionics, you have even more options to help simplifying the workflow. This feature, called Forflight Connect, is available to all users. An additional icon will appear in the bottom line of the Flight Plan Editor when connected to an avionics. You can use that to send the planned route to the avionics or conversely import a route from the avionics. This is especially helpful if a crew member has already programmed the route in the avionics. The panel icon becomes also visible when tapping the Send To icon. If you want to learn more about avionics connectivity, please register for the April webinar. Even if the VFR navigation data, such as traffic circuits with their altitudes, reporting points, or noise-sensitive areas are already displayed in the aeronautical map layer of the ForeFlight mobile app, it is possible to display available aerodrome charts in the ForeFlight mobile app. To do this, the planned route is sent to the Plates tab. You can switch between the tabs at will to optimally present the respective information. The binder structure in the chart view is taken from the Jeppesen flight deck. The available charts are pre-sorted according to departure and destination aerodrome, and they are again according to the type of procedure. Freely available Eurocontrol plates and ForeFlight airport diagrams and information are available to all users. If Jeppesen or other optional procedure charts are added to your subscription plan, these are listed as well. For the approach charts, both IFR and VFR approach charts are displayed. Selecting a chart will display it. And by marking the icon next to the chart, it can be added to the quick selection. As many charts as desired can be selected. You can then switch between them with a free finger gesture. Back in the map view, the planned route is sent to the Flights tab. This is necessary if you have to file a flight plan for the flight, as in our case. Depending on the subscription plan, more extensive planning options are also available here. Customers with a Performance Plus plan can calculate takeoff and landing distances here. The runway is pre-selected depending on the available wind data, but it can also be entered manually. The available runways are listed with their dimensions and their surface. In addition, the wind from the current airfield weather is displayed as a head and crosswind component. If weather data does not match the actual values, they can be adjusted manually. In addition, it's possible to switch between magnetic and true heading, or the air pressure in hectopascals and inches of mercury. If circumstances required, a safety margin can be added to the calculated value. This is necessary. For example, the flight manual does not contain exact values for the surface condition of the runway and instead specifies upcharges. In addition, a personal safety margin can also be included here. The calculated values for the takeoff distance, rate of climb, and expected rate of climb can be found in the lower part of this page. For multi-engine aircraft, you will also find the one engine in operating numbers here. The same procedure is followed for the landing leg at the destination aerodrome. The calculated approach speed and landing distances are also displayed. When calculating the takeoff and landing distance, the planned approach weight, as well as the fuel consumption during the route are taken into account. Further details can be given further down the page. Instead of entering the number of people when filing the flight plan, users with a Performance Plus license can enter the number of people with their average weight and the mass of luggage they are carrying. Also available for Performance Plus users are fuel policies, which calculate either the minimum amount of fuel to be planned, taking into account the necessary reserve and possibly selected alternates, or the maximum amount of fuel possible, taking into account the planned payload. Vfr flights can be filed anywhere in Europe by pressing the Proceed to File button. Basic Plus and Pro Plus users can enter the details for the persons on board or the available fuel here. In addition, remarks to be transmitted with the flight plan can be entered in the remark line. By tapping File, the flight plan is sent to all necessary AFTN addresses. Please note that depending on the country and time of departure, the flight plan may not immediately appear on the display of the ATC unit responsible. VFR flight plans are processed with lower priority and are sometimes entered into the local system by the national units first 8 hours before departure. The flight tab also contains the nav log and the briefing pack for the planned flight. Both can be found at the top of the window. The briefing pack starts with a vertical cross-section chart which shows the wind, temperature, possible icing conditions and turbulence. In the briefing pack, you can scroll down to find sigma charts, meter TAF information, or any relevant NOTAMs for the flight. Here in the picture, the top view of the wind forecast. The nav log can also be accessed via the Flight tab. In addition to the segments of the planned route, the nav log also contains the overflown flight information areas with their entry and en route time. In addition, the frequencies for the departure and destination airports are included. Occasionally, it's necessary to provide additional documents for the planned flight. This can be done with the Document tab. Flights to or from the UK require the completion of a General Aviation Report. Using the official Excel sheet, I have created a PDF form and sent it as a custom content to the ForeFlight mobile app. This PDF form can now be filled out directly in the ForeFlight mobile app. Here, the choice whether arrival or departure. Other fields may be edited. After the form has been filled out, it can be sent directly from the app by email. Performance Plus users can even save the flight form directly with the corresponding flight. quickly send the General Aviation Report to the responsible office, and the flight is well prepared. Now let's go flying. Before the flight, you can enter the departure time in the flight plan editor and download the pack. This makes weather information available during the flight without an internet connection. The map settings allow you to adjust the displayed elements to your personal needs. The map display can be switched between north up, track up forward, and track up centered. Furthermore, additional functions such as glide advisor, extended center lines, map annotations, or the track log record button can be shown or hidden. When distance rings are switched on, the view can be adjusted by tapping on the label of a ring. You can choose between values that change automatically with the zoom level or fixed values for time or distance. The instrument line at the bottom of the screen can also be customized. If you select the nearest airport function, your position relative to the nearest airport is constantly displayed. A very practical function to quickly write down a frequency, a transponder code, or a note on the chart is the map annotations. Marked positions, available in Performance Plus plans, let you drop a position marker at any point along your flight. Each position marker includes the current time, GPS coordinates, altitude and speed, and you can name the point and add additional notes if needed. We have already talked about the dynamic navlog in the planning phase. In the right-hand columns, the resulting values for distance, flight time, and estimated time of arrival at the respective data points are displayed in the flight based on the current speed over ground. This is very helpful when ATC regularly requires the estimated overflight time, such as in Italy or when flying over water. Users with a Pro Plus plan or higher can also use the profile view in flight. That has two modes. In flight, the profile view automatically switches to show airspace, obstacles, and terrain 50 nautical miles ahead of your current location. The planning mode shows the current position in relation to the planned route. When using the ruler in flight, the current ground speed will be used to show the time to travel for the distance measured. To display airfield information during the flight, simply tap on the corresponding airfield and the info page opens in the sidebar menu. Also, to find out the frequencies and Morse code of a VOR, this information can be displayed by tapping the respective facility. Synthetic vision is optional to Basic Plus or included in Pro Plus or higher plans. Tap the Altitude Indicator or Synthetic Vision button at the top of the Maps page to view the Attitude Indicator display. On the iPad, the display also includes GPS Altitude (MSL), GPS Ground Track, GPS Ground Speed, and the GPS Calculated Rate of Climb. If connected to a Sentry or other supported HRS-equipped external devices, the display will also include an HRS-derived horizon. However, if using a GPS source that does not include an HRS sensor, the horizon will appear level regardless of your aircraft's altitude. You can tap on an airport in Synthetic Vision to see the airport information window. If you are connected to a traffic receiver like ADS-B or FLARM, this traffic in your vicinity is also displayed in synthetic vision. Another safety feature is a hazard advisor, which is available in Pro Plus plans or higher. When flying in mountain terrain or descending to your destination, the map will be colored red or yellow based on the terrain height relative to your aircraft position, and shows yellow for terrain between 1,000 and 100 feet below the aircraft and red for higher terrain. Obstacles in local area with thousands feet of the aircraft altitude are displayed automatically and colored as well. ForeFlight Mobile offers many more functions such as mass and balance calculation, a speaking checklist, or scratch pads for making notes during the flight. After the flight, ForeFlight Mobile supports you with track logs and the pilot logbook. After the flight, there is a draft entry in the logbook. The times for block off, block on, or takeoff and landing are recorded automatically. It's not necessary to switch manually to a flight mode. These times are determined by the ForeFlight app itself based on speed and altitude over ground. But it can still be adjusted here in the draft entry. If you have taken photos or screenshots during the flight, these can be added to the logbook entry. Additional crew members or passengers can also be added to the entry. And users with a Performance Plus plan can follow the flight again in 3D. To learn more and check the functionality by yourself, you can register for a free 30 days trial of the ForeFlight mobile app. Under foreflight.com releases, you can find information about updated and new functionality. To review this webinar or register for coming webinars, please visit www.foreflight.com/webinars. If you have questions, please contact our support team and write an email to team@foreflight.com. Now I start answering some of the questions asked during the webinar. Yeah, we received a lot of questions. Thank you for watching. One question was, I found that in the last version of the app on the iPad mini, it's not more possible to read the full coordinates of any point selected on the map. So please share my screen. If you tap on the map, you can see the waypoints coordinates on top, but you can change the unit of the coordinates going to more settings, search for unit, and select coordinates. Here you can see that you have many options, and especially on smaller devices like the iPad mini, you can select a very short unit for the coordinates. Yeah, so just try it out. Next question, does ForeFlight offer a module for pre-flight risk assessment? What we have in the checklist feature is you can search for safe. So plus safe. And you can see that we have checklist template available to create your own pre-flight risk assessment checklist. And of course, you can adapt these checklists using your own values. Next question, can airport plates be overlaid on the map? Yes, for Pro Plus subscriptions or higher, you can send the airport plates or approach plates, anything which is any plate which is georeferenced to the map, and then that information will be overlaid over the map. You can adjust the opacity so that you can see what's behind that plate, or for night flying, you can invert the number, the colors. Next question, are these general aviation report templates and Gendeck templates available for download and use in ForeFlight? So we don't provide these information in ForeFlight. So you can create your own PDF document and import it to ForeFlight and use it by yourself. So that's very easy to import own content. I cannot see the VORs used during the presentation. What can I do? So please first check on the more and about that you have installed the most current ForeFlight release. Here in that case, it's 14.1.1. Recently, we have introduced the option to selective show airspaces, waypoints, nav aids, and IFR airways. So in the previous releases, you have to switch on IFR airways to see the nav aids, and these long-term feature request from the field was realized in January this year. But also, if you have switched off these features or these map elements, you can select these nav aids, airports, waypoints in the search list. So also, if they are switched off, not visible, you can select them. So we had many questions regarding altitude changes during the flight or the depiction of smaller airfields in the ForeFlight mobile app. As you may know, ForeFlight is permanently working on new and improved features. And also, if I can't provide you with a timeline today, you can be sure that we are working also on these requests. So if you want to apply an altitude change, you can do it today in the flight plan editor, set altitude and speed. And then you can change, for example, into a new altitude, change the speed, and that will be displayed in the flight plan editor. And in the nav log when creating the flight. So I changed back here to the standard navlog. So we have two versions of the navlog. The standard navlog is available to all users. So, and because the international navlog is only available to Performance Plus users, I changed back to see to show what everybody can see. And here you can see, because we had another questions about the depiction of the cursors here, we have of course everything heading is in taking in consideration the wind, and course is the course of the leg. Yeah, so if your question wasn't answered during the webinar, please send an email to team@forflight.com. And don't forget to register for the coming webinar at forflight.com/webinars. Thank you for watching the webinar. Have a good evening and goodbye.